Hey everybody, Yankee here. I don't know how much attention most of you are paying to the standard capacity magazine ban here in the state of Washington, but today we got a victory. A Cowlitz County judge said that the ban was unconstitutional based on both the state constitution and the federal constitution, that there was no law in history that was analogous to this. The state didn't show any laws in history that were analogous to this because the state keeps relying on public safety arguments. And the Supreme Court has clearly said that public safety is not a valid argument. There has to be an analogous rule throughout history when it comes to regulating firearms. And there is no such thing with capacity limits on guns. No one telling you how many rounds you can have, etc. And he said, the founding fathers may not have foreseen exactly what we have today as far as technology, but they did foresee advancements in technology, and they still chose to say shall not be infringed. So he struck it down. Now, unfortunately, Turd Ferguson, as some people know him, that little weasel that is our attorney general here in the state of Washington, well, he didn't like this. He got upset because, oh my God, they struck down that law that Bloomberg told me I had to pass, and if it gets struck down, he might not give me money for my government, for my election campaign for governor, and I'm losing right now. So he went running to his buddies at the Supreme Court, which, they've all been appointed by the same political powers, so they're all friends. And they gave him a stay. And one of the reasons they gave the stay is they said, there's a lot of arguable content here, including the argument about public safety. Even though the public safety argument has been repeatedly struck down by the Supreme Court. They've been told specifically that is not a consideration anymore. But somehow the word has not gotten to Washington. I don't know how. I think most of these people have cell phones. They probably should have read it on the internet or something. But it doesn't seem they have. So we still are having to wait for this to go through the courts further, just like we are on some other things. And the Supreme Court doesn't seem to be in any hurry to decide any of this stuff because, they don't want to be on our side. They're not really on our side. They're corporatists. They do what they do for the Second Amendment because they really have no other option if they want to try to disguise their duplicity in other things. Because they can't say they're pro-constitutionalists and start stripping the power away from individuals and giving it to corporations based on the fact that they're pro-constitutionalists if they clearly defy the Second Amendment. But even though they have to pretty much do it to back up their talk, they don't really want to do it any faster than possible, so they're dragging their feet on these things. That's one thing people don't seem to understand. Supreme Court is not on our side. They've just put themselves in a position where on some things regarding the Second Amendment they have to be, or it exposes a lot of their other issues. And there are other scapegoating of citizens, and there are other traitorous acts towards the Constitution. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying it very well. But what else is new? I'm not saying it well. But like I was saying, we did get a victory today. It was temporary in the fact that, you weren't allowed to buy high-capacity magazines, high-capacity, which we know are standard capacity magazines, for very long. There were some dealers that got some out before the stay was issued. But it is another victory, and it's another step towards victory. Now, like I said, Ferguson's running for governor right now. And can you imagine this guy being governor? This weaselly little pissant excuse of a man. I've met this man. I've shook his hand. This man is pathetic. He's a lapdog of the billionaires. And I hate to think that he could be the next governor. Luckily, he's losing right now to a Republican in all the polls by large margins, like 5-point margins, 9-point margins, margins that are outside the margin of error. So I'm hoping that there's hope that he will be defeated because he has no idea what actual people in Washington think or how they think. He thinks that the stuff that Bloomberg chews up and then spits back into his mouth, regurgitates into his gullet, is the will of the people. It's not. It's the will of his corporate masters and his billionaire masters. And I think that's why he's suffering in the polls right now. So we need to keep hammering him on this stuff and how he keeps defying the Second Amendment and defying the Supreme Court and how someone like this should never be governor. But I did want to point out that we did get that little victory today. It is one more notch on our belt, for victories. And hopefully, eventually, we'll get enough notches on that belt that will slice that sucker right in half.